Hey guys, Phobia again. Today, I am putting out a 9.1 Shadow Priest guide. I'm gonna go over the races, covenants, your talents, PvP talents, when to switch out talents, when to switch PvP talents in the situations or comps you're fighting. Your Soulbinds, gear, some macros that I use, and of course the best composition so far. Um, at the moment, I have a decent understanding. I'm about 2,200 right now as of today. Um, so first week we're pushing really hard. We still got about three more days to go until reset. So I'm going hard. So I think I know a little bit about right now how Shadow Priest is playing. So I'm gonna put what I know and what works for me, and let you guys build off of that. Like you don't copy what I do, but like if it makes sense to you, then hopefully this will help you. So we're gonna get right into it. All right. All right, so for races, for priest, shadow priest specifically, uh, races aren't like a make or break right now. Mainly because we can't be orc for horde, so it's not mandatory. As if when you play like a rogue, you have to be orc, right? If you play a mage, you have to be orc because you get that stun reduction. So if you can play a class that can play orc, it's mandatory. So priests don't have that option. So it's not make or break what um, race you play as a shadow priest. For me specifically, or personally, I should say, I love undead. With all the fears out there right now in this meta, you have warrior fear, you have warlock fear, you have priest fear. Um, this is huge to have for me because it's just another out you can get with Will the Forsaken. You get a little bit extra damage from their passive that they get for being undead. They also just look badass, in my opinion. I'm a big fan of looking good. Transmog equals the best, right? Um, I'm an undead, personally, but if you had to go like best in slot for any kind of mid maxing, I would say Goblin would probably be your best just for the flat haste, and you get a rocket jump. You can rocket jump out of a smoke bomb, or just the extra little mobility you need to get away from like warriors and stuff. Goblin's probably your best bet when it comes to actual like best in slot. I'm just not a fan of the way goblins look, so I don't play Goblin. Um, Panda is good um, for setup. So if you're playing like RPS, this could be a really good one to play. If you play God Comp, this could be a really good race to play. You get their in cap, which just gives you that extra CC you can use. So that's actually really good. I'm not dissing on the Panda. Again, I just don't like the way Panda looks personally, and again, like visually, I like aesthetically pleasing in the game. So I would say if you're trying to mid max, you're just trying to get the best out of what you can do, Panda or Goblin is gonna be your best choice for Horde, and then Undead, but it doesn't matter. I mean, Undead in the meta is really good right now, so you can't go wrong. Either one of them, you shouldn't see a rating difference by any one of them. Like if you're gonna get 2,700, 2,800, you're gonna get 27, 2,800 with either one of these races. If you're playing Ally, I'm a big fan of playing Night Elf. You can Night Elf racial a Chaos Bolt. You can Night Elf racial the new Maledict trinket. You can Night Elf racial CC. You can do a lot with this right here, and this is huge. Night Elf racial Storm Bolts for warriors, stuff like that, right? Grips and all that. Like it's really, really like if you can get it off and you're really good at preemptively doing goes and preemptively stopping goes, Night Elf is the way to go. They're just super freaking strong in arena for almost everybody. I prefer this on the ally side. If you're not a fan, then you can go human. Um, Human has their trinket. They're every man for himself, or all who will serve. Passive trinket. But as a shadow priest, like if you're running certain PvP talents or comps, you really want to rely on having the medallion itself to save you from like maybe you have to trinket fade or trinket life grip or trinket life swap or whatever you're running. Human isn't the way to go on that end. I would probably again say Night Elf or Panda for ally. Night Elf or Panda is probably your best bets here. Void Elf is not bad, but you're not gonna see a lot of play in it. Dwarf's not bad, but you're not gonna see a lot of play in it. So I would say just stick with Night Elf, Panda, and if you don't like those, Human. That's gonna be because when you get the racial passes from the two from humans, it's nice. But yeah, that's what I would stick with when it comes to races. So that's races right there. That's my opinion on them. All right, so next is gonna be Covenant and Soulbinds. Same covenant for Shadow Priest. Venthyr is really the only viable spec for competitive PvP. Mind games are just too strong. You throw that mind games on somebody when you're doing a go. Can't do any healing if they're a rep pally or enhancement shaman, or even if let's say a survival hunter is not paying attention, or a BM hunter is not paying attention, or any hunter is not paying attention, and they exhilarate into it. It's just too good. Like if you cross CC everybody on the team, you mind games the target on your go, and they don't have a dispel available. They're a hybrid. They can't heal or they kill themselves. So it's really good. It's also just good for defensive reasons. Your healer CC'd, but you can get maybe a cross CC on their healer. Mind games, and somebody attacking like a rep pally or a warrior or a DK, whoever's just on you and you actually get it off, they'll heal you and it'll keep you alive. It also just does so much damage. Like Mind Games is crazy strong on burst, especially in void form and all, and you're just sending it with, especially with the new talents. There's no other comparison. It's too good. It's honestly too good. It's also you can bait dispels with it. You can get the initial damage that you're looking for, and then you can bait dispel, and then you can go all in with more stuff. Um, so yeah, you just can't beat Mind Games. So when it comes to Soulbind tree, Nausea is still best in slot. Thrill Seeker getting that 20% haste as a Shadow Priest is too good, but a big thing is going to come with the new ones we're about to get. So I'll be going down this tree like this, right? And it's going to end up going into Nimble Steps, and then we get another Endurance slot down here. But Nimble Steps is super good because it actually gives us a slow. It actually gives, I mean, it's only 10%, but it still gives us a slow. And then when you get below a certain HP pool every once a minute, which most goes are about once a minute, you get the root people and try to walk away from them. So that's huge, especially for these melee cleaves this season, right? And then when you get down to this Endurance condo over here, you're going to have a spare one. So what it's looking like right now for me is I'm going Shadow Perceptions, and I'm going Dissonant Echoes for um, my two bursty conduits, right, for during my go. And then my last potency conduit is going to be Haunting Apparitions. It's just the best overall, and it just gives you a little bit of consistent pressure compared to the other ones. A good one I've been looking at also is if you get a high tier Rabid Shadows, that could be a good um, trade out for Haunting Apparitions if you're playing a setup comp like God Comp or RPS. This could be a good one just because it gives you a little bit of extra damage on the Smoke Bomb Kidney go. You throw out your Shadow Fiend, you pop damage, and your Shadow Fiend gets buffed, and he gets the extra attacks. It could be good, but in most situations, I feel like Haunting Apparitions is just does a lot of extra spread pressure. It's like another 5% damage overall. It's pretty good when you're trying to go into dampening games, or if you're playing like a dampening comp like Owl Play. But this one right here, it just seems the best. So Shadow Perceptions, Dissonant Echoes, and Haunting Apparitions is your potency. And then moving into your Endurance conduits, you're going to be running the new one called Condensed Atmosphere. They buffed it right before the season started. It went from like 0.3% to 3.5 on the 200% ones, or 200 item level ones, and then they go higher. 3.5% of your maximum health every 10 seconds. That's actually really good, especially if you're playing against a dot comp or a rock comp or boomkins or anything like that. Like you just procking health all the time, especially if you're LOSing, but you have dots on you. That's a big one. And then on down here, when we unlock our next endurance slot in a couple weeks, you want to put back in Light's Inspiration, which gives you right now mine does 8.4% of my maximum health over 5 seconds. I don't have the greatest conduits, as you can see. I never really farmed them. I gotta get the 200 ones and then the 226s from PvP, but you're gonna throw this down here and it just makes you extra tanky, right? You're doing a go, your healing gets CC'd, you can Greater Fade, you can Desperate Prayer, get a Condensed Life Force, you get a big heal from Desperate Prayer, and then you get a good thing about that is that this prayer will also heal you from Light's Inspiration based off the percentage of health you gain. But this Condensed Animosphere also will heal you for extra because you popped Desperate Prayer, which increases your maximum health. You're actually getting more HP out of that. So it just synergizes well together, and it keeps you alive longer in this bursty meta. It's just too good. So when we unlock this one down here, make sure you get Light's Inspiration. And then what makes this tree so good compared to the others like Theodore and General Draven is Fatal Flaw is going to be so good for us. We get, after the haste from Thrill Seeker falls off, we're going to get 20%, I believe it is, versatility. And of course, you get 20% versatility, which gives you more damage, healing, and you get damage reduction. But that also gets buffed by the 40% damage and healing side as well from your trinkets. Your trinket double bonus. So you get 20% plus 40% of that on top of damage and healing, and then you get the 20% extra added to your defense just from the Fatal Flaw itself. So that's just too good. This is why you have to run this. You get haste, and you get versatility, and that procs like what, probably twice a minute. So we have a high uptime on it. It's really good. And then of course you have nimble step. So this right here is what you're trying to run. Venthyr as your covenant, Knowledge of the Mistblade as the Soulbind tree, and then Shadow Perceptions, Dissonant Echoes, Haunting Apparitions, Clear Mind as your finesse conduit, so you have less mana, or you have more mana, less cost than your spells, and it's just too good. It's just too good. So this is what I recommend running. You can run other things if you wish. If you want to play more defensive, you can go into the Draven tree. Well, you just lose too much offense. I don't recommend it, but that's what I believe for Covenant. We're gonna move on to talents next. All right. All right. So talents. Talents for Shadow Priest this season, especially in the meta and losing Lasting Plague, is so different almost every game. Almost every game I'm changing it up, depending on what I'm fighting, because we have new PvP talents and open slots. So this, what I'm showing you right here, Unfurling Darkness, Intangibility, Misery, Psychic Core, Shadow Crash, Damnation, and Ancient Madness, with Void Volley, Greater Fade, and Driven to Madness, is what I run into most melee comps. I'm going to reiterate that. Melee comps. I fight a lot more melee comps than anything else. So this is what I generally will run for myself. Unfurling Darkness, let's start from the top. You cast a VT, right? Cast a Vampiric Touch. You get another Vampiric Touch. Instantly, don't have to cast it. And it applies a big on hit. That 4K, I've hit for like 8 to 10K applications on Unfurling Darkness. It's huge if you can get it on a burst and you actually set it up. It's really freaking good to secure kills on a go. But it's also just a great way to just apply your dots to 2 targets. Just get it going. So that's a good one to get. And that's actually the only one you can get. Like, these others are not worth using in Arena. Unfurling Darkness is really the only way to go. On the second tree here, you have Intangibility, Saniline, and Body and Soul. Now, some people will tell you can run Body and Soul if you're not the target, and I am not a fan of that. I don't ever spec out of Intangibility. It's too good, first off. If you are ever getting swapped to, it is way too strong of an ability, and it's really good when it comes into more of a dampening situation where your healer just can't keep you guys up. You can defensively Intangibility if it's coming to a close kill. Like, hey, they're bursting somebody else, but you're rotting down yourself. You're like, hey, I'll heal myself and disperse myself. I'm not saying to ever waste dispersion. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it's way too good in the fact where Saniline and your Vampiric Embrace won't heal you for jack crap during dampening, and Body and Soul won't matter. But Intangibility, you can pop your Desperate Prayer, pop Intangibility, or pop Dispersion. Intangibility will heal you, and I've actually played games where I've used defensive Dispersion without even being the target to heal to full, and then be offensive and win the dampening match. Now, most games won't go into dampening, so don't worry about that. But the whole reason you go Intangibility is 90% of the games you're going to play, you're going to be the target unless you're playing with a Warlock. You're just going to. And this helps alleviate a lot of pressure in those situations. So this is why you got to run it. It gives you a big heal, and it reduces the duration by 30 seconds. So got to run Intangibility. Misery, it applies Shadow Word Pain to your targets when you apply Vampiric Touch, so it correlates with Unfurling Darkness. So you VT somebody, VT. See how they both got Shadow Word Pains on them? That's because Unfurling Darkness applies VT, which also applies Misery, which applies the Shadow Word Pain to it. It's too good, saves you a bunch of globals inside of the match. And if you're just doing this all the time on a global, you're missing stuff. And by the time you get your dots up, they can be dispelled, and you wasted a couple seconds where you could have set up a burst or got an offensive dispel or whatever you need to get done. You got to run it. There's nothing more important than running Misery inside of Arena. On the next tree, where you have Psychic Core, you have Mind Bomb, and you have Last Word. This one, it all depends on the comp you're running. Now, I personally think you run Psychic Core 99% of the time, unless you're playing with a Hunter. That's the only real exception. Even when you're playing with the Rogue, I don't think you spec out of Psychic Core, at least I don't. And I would recommend you stick with Psychic Core, because if you play with an Assassination Rogue especially, he doesn't have the multi-stun. So he stuns the kill target, you stun the healer, and you set up your go. Mind Bomb is good if you want to run it again with a hunter, or if it's a comp where you can't get CC on the healer. So if there's a comp that you just can't reach the healer, and you know you can't reach the healer, and there's no way you're getting to that healer, but you still need to land your CC chain, then you can drop Psychic Core for Mind Bomb, right? You just silence Mind Bomb, good to go. But other than that, I'm trust me when I say just go horror every time. You can use it as a kick if you need to save a teammate from Chaos Bolt. Whatever you need to do, it is just too important to have that on-demand CC. It's too powerful. Stuns are really good right now. That's my go-to every single game. I've ran it every game this season. This next row, Shadow Crash, is probably your only go-to here. You can run Auspicious Spirits in like Battlegrounds and RBGs, but in Arena, you're in a burst meta, and it's not as much of trying to go into dampening just yet. Now maybe later in the season it might, but Shadow Crash is just too good to throw out a non-crit 4K right there, right on the target, which probably will be less than Arena, but I've crit for like 8Ks Shadow Crashes. So that's a good way to try to secure a kill when you're doing a go on a setup-based comp, especially like God Comp or RPS. So it's a good way to get insanity. You can just be staying back. People can be pillaring. You just throw out a Shadow Crash, get some insanity going, and you can also just disrupt people who are trying to stay behind pillars, get a little extra damage out there, keep them in combat for 1 second, because it doesn't technically keep you in combat. But if somebody's drinking, you can throw a Shadow Crash and it disrupts them for a second. Things like that. It's just too good, and you can get people out of stealth. Get rogues out of stealth, pharaohs out of stealth, druids out of stealth, mages out of stealth. It's just too good. It's too good of an ability. So I'm always going to go with Shadow Crash, and I recommend you guys do too. This next row, Void Torrent and Damnation are really the only two that are worth going here. Damnation is going to be your go-to in most scenarios, especially versus melee cleaves, where they're just going to be on you and you don't have the ability to just cast all the time, especially because you're going to be casting other things on your go. You just don't want to have to worry about that. It also just is a great way to apply your Devouring Plague, and since our mastery works off of our dots, it's a great way to just put instant damage. Boom, you got 15% more damage on the target. Which is a great way to do it. It's a great way to just throw up your stuff and then do a go. It's too good to pass up in most scenarios. The only real time I run out of Void Torrent is if I'm running into a Dispel team, so like a Windworker Priest or a Paladin Priest or Shadow Priest, Holy Pally, or anything that has double Dispel on them, essentially, where you're not going to get a lot of value out of Devouring Plague. Also where it's going to be like Double Caster. Like Double Caster I generally run Void Torrent into this season, just because it's just extra on-demand damage. You're not worried as much as getting dots up as you are as doing pressure. So Void Torrent is normally what I'll run into like Double Caster cleaves, or let's say comps that don't have kicks as often. I'll run into that also. But other than that, Damnation pretty much every other game. This next tree you see I have Ancient Madness. That's because the Void Volley build that we're running right now, it correlates really good, Ancient Madness into Void Volley. Yeah, you could run Hungry and Void in Void Volley, but I get a lot of success on my goes right now with the Void Volley Driven to Madness build, because what it does is it gives you critical strike chance, and then your Void Volleys can crit if you get lucky RNG, and you can do I'm telling you, like 10, 15k Void Volleys, and if you get a couple of those on your go, and if your Mind Games crits, it actually does absurd amount of damage. I got a lot of kills this season just doing that, but that's not the only reason you run the Void Volley. Speaking of Void Volley, we're going to go on PvPTalents real quick. So the reason I run Void Volley is into double melee. If I pop Void Volley on a target and it hits them, right? Generally you want to be like in melee range. I probably should have mentioned that. Generally you want to be like this far from the target when you Void Volley. And if it hits them, it disorients them and it doesn't DR, right? So it gives them a fear, essentially, and it doesn't DR. So it can disrupt them and they can't stop your go. So if you're popping your burst and then that Void Volley hits a target and you see them hit, you just throw out your Mind Games and they have to either Trinket to stop you, or that target's going to just get blown up. And then your Mind Games can crit, and then you can Shadow Crash, and your Shadow Crash can crit. So when you're running this, like the Void Volley build, generally I run Ancient Madness every time I run Void Volley. Almost every single time because of that. And the reason then I run Driven to Madness because it brings my Void Eruption up faster, so I get more Void Volleys. And in the melee meta, it's all about who can kill each other fastest, and you don't have a lot of goes right now. So as a Shadow Priest, if I can run Driven to Madness and Void Volley, and I can get Void Volleys up more, I have a better chance of winning those melee cleaves than I would if I didn't, because of the fact that I'm going to get another big go, and the RNG eventually will be on your side, where you might hit the healer, and the healer can't heal, and they keep getting disoriented, and then you can save your stun, silence, fear, and then after disorient, you stun, silence, fear, and that's just enough to secure the kill, and you get big crits all over. This is what I run into most melee builds. The only time I don't run the Driven to Madness build, and I'll run Void, or I'll run Void Urges instead, or I'm in combat. I can't swap out. Let me move over here real quick so I can change that up. So I would generally change my Driven to Madness to Void Origins if it's like a double Shaman comp, or a comp I cannot cast in. For instance, the Walking Dead with the Shaman, I generally run the Void Origins, Void Volley, Ancient Madness build into that comp specifically, because you don't need an improved MD there, right? You don't need your improved Massive Spell, which is the new talent we got that makes your Massive Spell instant cast. We don't need to run that. So we run the Void Origins build because you don't want to get kicked in that comp, because you could literally get 100 O'd by a Windwalker alone with the Spinning Crane Kick bug, and you just flop over. Plus you add DK damage into that. Not happening. Nope. You just go Void Origins. Don't worry about getting kicked. Big damage. Void Volley. Set up a minute and a half later and do it again. And it's just too good. So generally, I'll say for you guys out there who have a problem being trained, run Void Origins, Void Volley instead with Ancient Madness. And if for you guys who are pretty good under pressure, Driven to Madness, Void Volley is the best combination, I feel like, into melee cleaves. Into non-melee cleaves, I run Hungering Void, I'll run Void Origins, and I'll run Improved MD. This is what I'll generally run into comps that I don't need to worry about being in melee range with. So like hybrid comps and stuff like that, or I should say melee caster comps, I should say. But also you run this into, again, where you're not going to get value out of Void Volley. So if you're running double caster, you don't run Void Volley to double caster, because you're going to hit one person, or you might not get hit any of them because you're not going to be in their range, and if you push over too far, you're going to get killed. So this is what I'll generally run into, like double caster comps, and I'll throw a Void Torrent into that for my burst instead. So this is what I'll run right here. This is exactly what I'll run into like double caster comps. This exact playstyle. If I don't need MD, I run Driven to Madness. This is what I'll run if I don't need an MD versus a double caster comp. This is the spec I run right here if I don't need to have MD versus double caster. So as you can see, you change up a lot during the arena. I don't recommend running Megalomania. I know you'll see some Shadow Priests out there, some guides out there, some high-rated players out there saying, oh, run Megalomania. But they're high-rated players. They're rank 1s. They know how to react around it. For people who are learning or trying to get their first Glad or whatever that might be, that's not something you want to risk yourself. And this is why. Let's say you run Megalomania and you pop off, right? And the enemy team's aware of that. They're just going to wait for your Megalomania to fall off, CC your healer, and kill you with no cooldowns. And you're still going to have to pop a Dispersion. You're still going to have to pop a Trinket Fade without their burst. And then what they're going to do is 30 seconds later, they're going to burst you. Where you would have normally had Dispersion, you no longer have it. Where you normally would have had Trinket Fade, you no longer have it. And it just costs more cooldowns that you don't need to worry about, basing that you might get some good Void Volley procs off of Megalomania. Because you run Megalomania with Void Volley, right? This is what you generally will run when you're playing Void Volley. And I don't recommend it, especially as newer experienced players or trying to grind for your first time. This is not something that I would recommend trying to cheese yourself with, because you're going to lose more games than not. I personally believe that. So I don't recommend going Megalomania. Thought Steal is a talent that I would only run into mages if I feel there's a threat into mages. But generally, I don't even run that into mages or RMP. What I run into RMP is this right here. So for you guys who are about to ask, oh, what do you run into RMP? What if in that situation? This is what I run right here. Damnation for instant damage. Spam Dispel on that mage. Spam Dispel on anything that all the shields he brings up, his procs, and then you just MD. If you can let a poly get off and you can preemptively stop the go, let's say if they're on you, right? You see a poly coming, you can fade, MD, boom. It's worth the fade. It's worth the fade at that point. You fade, you MD your healer out, he's on DR, you're not going to die in 3 seconds in that situation. So that's a big one. You don't have to always fade, by the way, but that's just a good technique I've been using. When I see that they're going to come on me, and I'll fade the kidney. and then I'll MD my healer, and they have no kill pressure after that. But this is generally what I run. And then you run Void Volley because you're going to be on top of them, and you're going to stop the rogue from hitting you if you get a disorient on him. He's not going to be able to kick your mind games. If you're playing a setup-based comp like RPS, that mage is going to be stunned, and you get triple cross CC right there on your own. So this is what I'll generally run to RMP. If you don't want to run Void Volley, then I recommend going Void Origins, and I recommend going Improved MD, Hungry and Void. So this is the second spec I would recommend you guys running into RMP situations or FMP situations. Reason why RMP and FMP, of course, you got the poly, but with FMP, you got the cyclones. Same thing, you get the cyclones off if they get a cyclone on your healer, and you have the consistent pressure of Hungry and Void inside of the Void Origins, and you don't want to get kicked versus FMP, and you don't want to get kicked versus RMP because you're pretty much dead if they get a kick on you and they set up properly. So Void Origins, get your damage out. Only thing you have to worry about casting is Mind Games because you have Damnation. Second RMP build right here, guys, is what I recommend. And those are essentially the builds that I run for most situations. I never run Mind Trauma. I almost never run Void Shift. I guess you could run Void Shift into like The Walking Dead or RMP if you really, really feel like you need it. But I haven't ran it once this season. And I don't run Siphoned. Generally, I play with an MS on my team. And Assassination Rogues have a strong MS, almost the same as Siphoned. Siphoned got a buff to its HP pool, but it still dies really quickly. And I don't feel like it's worth it. And if you play with a warrior, the warrior has Sharpened Blade on your go, so you don't need Siphoned also. So you just have room for other talents. So these are the things that I recommend. The specs I recommend for certain situations. You guys again play with it how you wish on your own, what feels comfortable to you. But that's what I've been running this week, and it's been extremely successful. Like I said, we've been killing it this week. So those are the talents I recommend, guys. All right, so just a real quick show of some of the macros I use that might be able to help you guys. If you want like a burst macro or for like BGs or just for arena itself, you can do your Void Eruption macro where you put Power Infusion into your Void Eruption on your big burst. So you can Void Erupt, but it'll pop Power Infusion first. So you get a fast Void Eruption if you have to cast it, but also it'll apply Saltwater Potion if you're in a PvP scenario. You can throw that Saltwater Potion up, big damage, big one shots for Battlegrounds. But if you don't have Saltwater Potion, it won't do anything. It'll just still activate the Power Infusion Void Erupt combo. So you can have that as a separate macro for your go. This one here is for Shadow Crash. This is just so you don't have to have the green marker on the Shadow Crash, so you don't have to click it. You just aim your cursor. It's a cursor macro, and it'll just shoot your Shadow Crash. It's the same thing with my Master Spell right here. Just aim and point. That's it. You don't have to worry about clicking it for that extra 0.1 second downtime. It's just right there. I have the same thing with my Door of Shadows, so you can pretty much macro those together. This here is a target harm macro. This is for focus targets. So if I focus that training dummy over there, apparently puts an arrow. I like that. I didn't notice that. But let's say that the arrow means that's my focus target. So if I'm attacking this target, I can stun and then silence the Raider's target dummy. Now, since it's a Raider's target dummy, it won't get silenced, but I silenced the target dummy with that macro because I have a focus target. Now, if I don't have a focus target, this macro also works on my current target. So if I have mouse wheel down, which is what my silence is for my focus, it's also will still work if I have no focus with this macro right here, the Karma Harm. So you guys can look at it for a second and copy that if you wish to. It's great for world PvP, so you'll have all-in-one macro. And then this right here is my Cancel Aura macro. So this stops me from, it gets me out of dispersion. So if I disperse and I just mouse wheel up, which is my Mind Flay, it doesn't cast Mind Flay, but it gets me out of dispersion. It's just a quick way to get out of dispersion. So that's that macro. This is just the same thing, the Karma Harm macro for my Mind Control, Karma Harm macro for my Mind Bomb, Karma Harm macro for my Psychic Core. So you can do, like I said, you can just put all these together for focus targets if you wish to, and then you can do Arena 1, 2, 3s if you wish to as well. But these are just basic focus macros that work, and cursor macros, and then your burst macro right here. So this is just some generic stuff. You guys can look over it a couple times and copy if you wish to. But I thought I'd just show you guys what I'm currently using for macros. And then of course I have a bunch for other classes over here, but that's just for this. If you have any questions about that, feel free to reach out to me. I just wanted to show you guys that real quick, and then I am going to talk about some comps here right now. All right, so now I'm going to show you guys the basic rotation that I use in my goes, with the implication of the new PvP trinket called the Unchained Gladiator Shackle of Malediction. It's a maledict trinket, just like BFA, but the difference between this trinket and the BFA trinket is it slows you by 50%, and you can't use any other abilities, or else it breaks the shackle. So if you shackle and then dispel, or shackle and add a dot, or shackle and death, it's going to break the shackle, and then you don't get all the ticks or the absorption out of it. It is also dispellable by anybody with a curse or a cleanse. So druids can cleanse themselves out of it. Feral, boomkin, windwalkers can reverse it back to you, and demon hunters can reverse it back to you. So keep that in mind. You want to use your maledict's trinket inside of a stun combination. That's generally how you want to use it, or when there's no kicks, dispels available. So you can bait, for instance, you can bait it with, let's say, you know you're about to get the kill, you get a mind games off, you let the healer dispel the mind games, and then you tell your team, let's go, send our trinkets. You're gonna almost every time kill if they're at the right HP threshold without cooldowns. So you want to time it as like a finisher, not as just a starting ability. Like, you want to use it as a finisher move, because we all know Shadow Priest doesn't have really anything after our mind games to do anything. But now we have this trinket, which I use almost every game because it's just that good for the extra pressure. And I'm gonna show you how I generally set up. So like, we'll CC the target, right? So we'll CC the target, and the healer. So we're like, okay, hey, we're about to CC the healer. You ready? Yeah. I'll throw my dots up. I'll be like, okay, let's go. And I'll go into Void Eruption, throw out a Void Bolt, and then I'll mind games the target, Unfurling Darkness, and then I'll throw out my Shackle if it's a kill potential, if it's like a smoke bomb right there if I'm playing with the rogue. That's generally my go right there. And then after the Shackle, I'll throw out like a Void Bolt, Shadow Crash, Reapplication of Devouring Plague, whatever I gotta do to finish off the target. But generally, that's how I'll do it. If you have Shadow Fiend up, you can throw your Shadow Fiend preemptively before the go, so you can throw out your Damnation, your Shadow Fiend, be like, okay, I'm ready to go. Then your rogue can stun, you can and smoke bomb, you can then stun silence the healer, and or void erupt first and then stun silence the healer. So you have the void eruption out, stun silence the healer, and then do the rest of your go. That's generally how you're gonna want to do it. You're gonna want damnation. You're gonna want to throw out your void eruption. You're gonna want to throw out your mind games, unfurling darkness combination, because again it's a big amount of damage. And then shackle, and then void bolt, keep it so you can get the void bolts out there. And then just use your fillers. But that's generally how you're gonna burst in this build that I have right here. It's super easy. It just takes some preemptiveness. You don't want to do it all during the stun. Again, you want to preemptively do it. So you want to try to throw out anything you have up right before you do it. So you want to preemptively throw up your damnation, then your Shadow Fiend. So you have Unfurling Darkness ready, but you haven't committed the kidney bomb yet. And then you say, hey, go kidney bomb. So you don't have the damnation, throw out your Shadow Fiend during the smoke bomb, because then you're losing pressure and time. So that is my general go setup. Again, if you're running like Void Origins, you don't have to worry about casting your Void Eruption, so it's a little bit better. You can just throw it out there for, again, it's really good for setup case comps if you want to use Void Origins as well. You can just throw it out there. I like running Journey to Madness because I get more Void Volley goes up if I'm running Void Volley. But that's generally your go, guys, right there. All right, so next I am going to go over what I believe are the best comps at the moment for the current state of the season for Shadow Priest. Again, this is just my opinion, so you guys can hate on me if you want. You can type in the comments I'm bad. You can say I'm good or I'm right, but this is just my opinion based on what I've seen so far or what I've played against. So again, it's up for you guys' speculation. But so for me, we're gonna go ahead and start at the bottom. We're gonna go ahead and start with the risky comp. For me personally, and everyone knows this is actually probably my favorite comp, but I personally believe playing with a warlock in the current state, at least a UA lock or a demo lock, is pretty risky, because the melee meta that we're in right now does not favor consistency damage, and there's so much self-healing and self-sustain that UA doesn't have a time to really ramp up. And dispelling UA with having like passive shields, doesn't really bring the risk that it used to, like especially like last season, early on last season, where you dispel a UA and you have a Shadow Priest on you and you just get destroyed with the Mind Games Go. It was scary, right? It was a scary comp to fight. Kind of like a little, like about a month into the season. But now, if you're playing demo or UA with a Shadow Priest, it doesn't. It's not really giving you a positive way to play the game. Like it just feels like you're always on the back foot no matter what you do. I'm not saying you can't get success with it. I just feel like with a UA lock right now, it's not um, the safest play. So I put that in the risky. Now, if you play with a Destro lock, that's a different story. Like Destro play, I haven't seen a lot of it because there's better comps out there. I think it has potential to be really, really good because Destro is starting to look better. But I don't have anywhere I feel like I could put it. I don't feel like I could put it in the A or B tier. I don't feel like I could put it in the S tier because I haven't fought a lot of it. And when I played it, it didn't really feel all that great into the meta. Um, so I'm putting it at risky to just play at um, your own risk and see how it goes for you. Because I personally would not play it this season, even though I love playing Shadow play, Destra play. I still like it as well, but I put that down, putting that down as the risky tier for myself. Um, and I would say that's really the only risky tier, just because I can't see that being like a comp you'd run over other comps. So for me, going into let's say the B tier, we're gonna go ahead and start off with Rep Pally Shadow Priest, and then Rep Pally Shadow Priest can be played with a R Chamois or an R Druid. Um, Either one works because R Druids are so freaking strong this season right now. Very good on getting resets and mana. You have a bunch of off heal, so if you need to get drinks, you can pull off and do that. The rest of Shaman brings double purges, grounding, tremor for Shadow Priest, Warlock teams, and also for the jungle cleaves out there. You have Sank, you have grounding, you have tremor, you have wind shears, and you can just stop and either the priest on the team, or you can just out attrition them in general. So that's what I would recommend if you really just want to play a comp that is very attrition based and has a lot of defenses. You can run the Rep Pally Shadow Priest Cleave, but the downside and why it's in the B tier is you're all squishy. Everyone is a squishy target in this one. There's not a lot of defenses, there's not a lot of peels, and your peels are dispellable. Rep Pally Hodge is dispellable. If he runs Rep, which I don't see him ever running Rep, but he could run Rep with with cyclones and stuff, and they're dispellable. So I don't recommend the playing the comp just because it is too squishy and you don't have a reliable peel sense, and it doesn't do very well into dampening. You would think it would because of the off fields, but it doesn't do very good into dampening. It's a little bit better with Restless Shaman and dampening, but it's still not that great into dampening. You do have the one shot potential, what makes the comp scary, but you don't have again sustainability and peels during the goes. You both just die in, all three of you actually would just die in a stun. So dying in a stun, and there's no way to really stop that without DRing your goes. It's not something I'd recommend playing if you're trying to push really high quickly, or even just really high, um, like sustained wins. So it's a good comp. It's fun to play. I just don't recommend it as like an A or S tier. Um, so that's just one of those comps. So we're gonna go ahead and bring this down real quick. And then another B tier comp that I would say as of right now is another melee Shadow Priest comp, and I would say it's the Windwalker Shadow Priest. Kind of the same thing as the Ret Shadow Priest. It does a crap ton of damage. It has a lot of consistent goes, but the downside to it and why it's in the B tier is it's the same thing. It's just they both die in stuns. Shadow Priest dies in a stun after he doesn't have dispersion, and then Windwalker's die in a stun. Um, and you don't have reliable peels. Your in cap takes off dots, and it slows down the game for the Shadow Priest. And if you have to use Leg Sweep to peel, then you don't have Leg Sweep for the go, and Leg Sweep has a long cooldown. So it's one of those things where it's like if you have to peel, you're wasting your go, and you guys die quickly, and you have almost no peels for the rest of Shaman. If you just did a go and they go him, or if they go Druid, because you can play with the rest of Shaman or Druid. Because I wouldn't recommend playing with the Holy Pally like you could have, just because you want the protection of the Shaman with the wind shears, the hexes, the groundings, the spirit links, and then the druid brings some extra consistency, long distance goes and heals, and they're also tanky, so they bring the tankiness where you guys don't. Um, so for this comp, that's why I put it in B tier also, just because it's really strong burst wise, but not defensive wise. And if you don't have everything, I don't put you guys in higher tiers, in my personal opinion. Um, so we're gonna bring this down here real quick, and then we're gonna bring up the next comp. And the next one, I feel it's also B tier, which this is where I'm sure I'm gonna get some hate on, is the Boomkin Shadow Priest, Resto Shaman, or Resto Druid, um, which is Owl play. Now, you don't want to play the Holy Pad with this either, in my opinion, because Resto Druid is just better attrition based. You have the double innervate for it. You just live longer. Since the Boomkin's super tanky, the Druid's super tanky, and you're super tanky, you would think you'd be better on the ladder, right? You think I'd put you A or S tier. And at first, I thought I was going to when the season started. I was like, oh, this is gonna be great. Necro Boomkin Owl play is gonna be so strong, and because it wasn't during the patch games, the postseason games. But as the season has progressed, I don't see a lot of it, and when I do, it just feels like there's a lot of spread pressure, but there's no kill potential. Um, if they play non-necro, they're not as tanky, and then the Boomkin can die, and eventually it turns into you have to try to counter go, and then you don't have the chance to counter go. I feel like this is gonna be definitely a lot stronger later as the season goes, but I feel as of right now, it is not good enough to put in a higher tier because we are in a burst meta, and Starburst is super strong and can do a shit ton of damage. But I feel like there's just a lot of counters to the owl play right now. Like there's a lot of just you can get away and you can't secure kills with owl play kind of situation right now. And that's my personal opinion. Like I want to put this in A tier. I really really do because I feel like it could be. I just as of right now, as the season's gone along, I haven't seen a lot of it. And when I have fought it, it just felt easy. And when I played it, it felt hard. And that could just be me. Maybe that's just me. But that's why I have it in B tier. It's just it's the opposite of the other comps. It's super tanky, but I don't feel like you have kill potential outside of mind games. So I'm putting that in B tier for now. But I do think, and that's what I'm saying, I do think it will be A tier, in my opinion. Later as the season goes, as we'll have to see more data, I guess you would say. But this is just my opinion. So I'm gonna go to now put this up here, and I'll go just for you guys real quick so you guys can see. I'll put these back up here like this, and then you guys can see what I rank for B tier here. So for the A tier, this is what I feel like you can push really really high with and be consistent with, but it's not like the best. But I feel like you can be very consistent with these comps, and they bring a lot of toolkit to the game. So the first thing I'm gonna bring out here, I'm gonna bring out the Demon Hunter Shadow Priest, and I recommend playing this with a Resto Shaman. Um, And the reason I want to say this is A tier is Demon Hunter with the buff to get the MS. That's very easy to apply. They can run away a lot of the like pre-situational goes if they're really smart with their goes. They can run away when they're about to get attacked. If they go on you, they have a decent amount of peels with the three AoE stun, right? They can triple AoE stun somebody. They can use their Fell Eruption. They can end cap. They have Darkness for you, even though Darkness was nerfed, but it could save cooldowns. You also have Earthern Totem. So you have Earthen Totem, Healing Time Totem, Darkness, Fade, Dispersion, his stuns, end caps, and then if they go him, you can MC, you can stun, you can fear, you can off heal. You have again Earthen. There's just too much. I feel like in this comp that it's really 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 good. You have the hunt for big one shot goes. You have the hunt. You have mind games. You have void volley. You have void eruption. Like you have a big go, and then you have Earth Ellie, Lego for the rest of shaman. You can do so much cleave with this comp and so much damage, and it sometimes can be just unhealable for how strong Demon Hunter is right now. Also, um, the reason why it's not an S tier is because the shaman and the Demon Hunter can be killed in a stun. Not necessarily the Shadow Priest in this comp, because like again you can rotate for your dispersion to be back up, unlike the other comps. Because you have Darkness for a go, you have Earthen for a go, you have Ascendance for a go, you have Dispersion, you have Trinket Fade, Desperate Prayer heal. So for this specific comp, I don't feel like the Shadow Priest is as scared defensively, but it's the opposite for your healer and for your Death Knight or your Demon Hunter. Man, I'm all over the place. Sorry guys. Um, if they cross CC your demon hunter, your shaman, you can't just save your shaman. It's almost not going to happen. But they can save you. So that's why it's an A tier, because a lot of the time in this comp, healers get swapped to very quickly, or the demon hunter gets swapped to very quickly, and you don't have a lot to stop that because they don't have self defenses like you would when you get CC'd. So that's why I have this in A tier. The next thing I want to put in the A tier is going to be Ellie Shadow Priest, and you can play with a Holy Pally in this one, or you can play with a Resto Druid in this one. The reason why this comp is super good is you have a lot of disruption with this comp. It's very disruptive into other casters, and it has a lot of one-shot potential with the Ellie Shaman. It also just does absurd amount of like instant consistent pressure. Like it's not a lot of setup to get it started. And you have, with the Holy Pally variant, you have Sacrifice or Mastery. You have Sky Fury Totem for your if you're running the Ancient Madness Void Volley build. You have the Sky Fury, and you have the Aura Mastery, and you just get free big one shots. And then the Ellie Shaman lets loose. You can just one shot people, and like consistently. It's like even if they see it coming, sometimes you can just kill. The R Druid version is a lot better in my opinion, for the fact that it can stay max range. It can't get reached to if they go the R Druid. The R Druid is tanky, and then you guys have off heals, but then you also have one shots for whoever go on them, especially melee cleaves. You have mind control, hexes, double purge, curse to spell. You have everything in the comp. The only downside and why I have this in A is because it is scripted. People will see the go of the Ellie Shaman and know you're doing something. They'll see the go of the Shadow Priest and they know you're doing something. So it is sometimes very easy to see it coming, and a really, really good team could actually outplay it. I mean, like I said, I know sometimes people can see it coming and they can't do anything, but really good teams will see something coming, and then they're like, okay, trade out line of sight, trade out CC. And since it is scripted, I put in A tier, because if it's really the comps that like you don't know when something's coming, that I put in S tier, or that just have everything that I put in S tier. Um, but this is why I have it in A tier, just because it is scripted and it can be shut down. Like you can shut the comp down if you just train the Ellie Shaman. You can shut the comp down. If you train the Shadow Priest, you can just shut the comp down. They can't train the healer, but if they train one of you two, they could theoretically just shut you down the entire time. So that's why I have it in the A tier. The next thing I'm going to put in the A tier real quick is going to be the Hunter. And I generally think Scatterplay plays really, really well with the Shaman variant. This comp is Scatterplay, so while this one is an A tier, and I'm pretty sure I might put this in S tier with the Survival Hunter, in my opinion, coming down the road, I would say play this with Survival Hunter over a BM Hunter, just because Survival, they can run Undispellable Trap, so when you run into Priest, they can't MD it. But even if you don't run an Undispellable Trap, Survival is very good into Clothies. It's very good into going into Warlocks. It's very good into going into Shadow Priests. It's very good into going to Mages, RMP. They have Sack, they have Feign Death, they have Mending Bandage. So you can do a lot to counter goes, and you have a lot of pressure from melee and ranged. It also does really well with the BM Hunter for just sheer consistent pressure. I just prefer the Survival variant of it, but they both do very well. But with the rest of Shaman, you can do a stun into a trap, into a silence, into a mind bomb, into a cap totem, into a hex, and then you can reset everything. It's like a 20+ second CC chain, and it is absolutely like super easy to just destroy people with this comp right now. You're probably not seeing a lot of it because people are running a lot of different comps, but it is so strong. I'm telling you, Scatterplay is going to be so much stronger when with this buffs that are coming out to hunters. If it is not just PvE only, and as the season goes on, I feel like it's just gonna get better. And there's a lot of defenses on the team. You have a lot of defenses on the team, a lot of stops, a lot of just consistent pressure. And I feel like it's just all in all, with having just sacrifice on the team, or sacrifice on the team, it just makes the comp really strong to most comps, because most comps are based on crit bursting, and you can stop it. So I feel like this is just such a really, really strong comp to play right now. And for any of you guys who are really good at coordinating CC, this is one of those comps that you really, really want to play, I feel like. If you can find a good hunter, that is. Let's go ahead and drop this hunter, and we're going to go ahead and bring in one of my favorite comps that I don't know if it deserves to be an A tier. I think it might be S tier. Again, I've been saying that a couple. It's just I don't have enough um, data on it, and I feel like the S tier comps that have an S tier just feel S tier. FPS. So since Feral got an MS, um, it makes this comp even more elevated than it used to in the previous seasons because we haven't seen FPS in a while. But FPS this season is super strong with Necroferals because all you do is just do so much consistent pressure the entire game. It can almost be unhealable, but you also have a tanky druid and you also have great peels for the shaman in this comp and yourself in this comp. But you also have super strong goes in this comp. So you have cyclones, you have roots, you have big bleeds and dots from the feral. You have your one shot to go off of in this comp. You have earthen totem, grounding, wind shear. Feral can't get sheeped or hexed, so you have dispel. He's pretty much protected from a lot of CC in the game, and he himself is disruptive. So you have a very disruptive comp, a very tanky comp, a very big on demand damage comp, and you have sustainability. That's all the makings of a great comp. The only reason this is a little bit down from S tier, in my opinion, is only because I feel like the comps that are currently in S tier are just a little bit stronger than the comp when it comes to like go orient comps or just pressure comps. Like I want to put this in S tier, and I think the only downside to this comp is the fact that sometimes your kill windows are based off the Shadow Priest, and if you're just stopped, you're not going to get the kill. So it kind of relies a lot on you, and in a good like these S tier comps, I feel like anybody can kill. So this is my last A tier comp, but this one is, in my opinion, is like the funnest I've played this season. Like I personally love this comp. It is so much fun. Um, but again, I have it in the A tier. So I'm gonna put these back up here for you guys, just so you guys can see what I am rating. And we are gonna move on to the next one. So the S tier comps. What do I feel, me, EJ, a Phobia Gaming, feel like the best comps are for Shadow Priest? We're gonna start this out. As you can see, we only have a couple of things left. So the first one we're gonna go up here with is the almighty, super powerful God comp. God comp. Oh man, Shatter play, whatever you want to call it. This is preferably played with the Fire Mage right now, especially just how strong they've somehow been this season. Um, Fire Mage and you play the Holy Pally, you have so many outs in this burst meta, so many outs in this burst meta that it's actually ridiculous. But the biggest thing about this comp is the sheer one shot potential you have on healers and the sheer one shot potential you have during any go. You have big combustions, you have ring of fire, you have meteor, you have like your combustion mind games go. You have your void volley if you run void volley into melee and you just destroy everybody. You have aura mastery, you have sacrifice, you have bop, you have freedoms to get away while you kite. You have frost novas. Like you have so much in this comp. You have unlimited CC. Like you can hodge a target, you can poly a target, you can psychic core a target, you can fear a target, you can silent. Like you have just too much. You have counter spell, you have double dispel. You have again. I keep going on and on and on, but this comp is so strong. Like if you guys just set up a good CC chain on a healer, you have like 25 seconds of CC. You have on demand burst every minute. And then if you play the rest of Druid, your Druid's just super tanky. You have the added Cyclones, you have the root spams, you have if you play Feral Affinity, you have extra stuns on the go. You can play this with a Holy Priest also. I mean I haven't played with one, but you could play with the Holy Priest Chastise setup, so you can Chastise Combust and CC the healer. But I feel personally it's better with the Holy Pally right now. Just because of the extra utility it brings to this burst meta against melee. With the bops and the aura masteries and the freedoms, and it's too good. I can't even stop going on and on about how strong this comp is right now. It's just absolutely absurd how much damage you do, especially to healers. Um, the next comp I want to go into is what I've been running for the majority of the season, and that's going to be RPS. RPS is just, again, it's one of those comps that it just feels S tier. You have with an assassination rogue, by the way. I recommend playing with an assassination. You can play with a sub, but assassination just brings way more pressure in this comp. But you have stun goes every 30 seconds. Then you have another go every 30 seconds, and you literally set up a go every 30 seconds, and it feels really, really good. And then you have the smoke bomb, you have the double chains, maledict trinkets, you have triple maledict trinkets, you have Earth Ellie if you want the Earth Ellie legendary. You can hit whoever you want and they die. But the big part about why this comp is so strong is the amount of damage you can do in a smoke bomb go with no cooldowns is almost a guaranteed kill every single time. You also have disruption from blind, kidneys, cheap shots from the rogue who can just peel for you all day. Rogue can just vanish. He can evasion. He can cloak. You can dispersion. You can greater fade. You have earthen totem, spirit link totem, healing tide totem. You live essentially forever. It feels like in this comp if you play correctly, and you can kill almost any comp if you play correctly, and you just trade cooldowns efficiently. With having double purge and having grounding totems to disrupt casters, tremor totems to disrupt priest and get fears out of the way, wind shears. I just feel like this comp has it all. Like I can't see a downside to this comp right now. I played it most of the season. It just feels so good. The only thing that really hinders us is Windwalker melee cleaves, because I feel like it just died to the spinning crane kick bug right now that I really feel like I can't do much about. But every other comp feels like a win. Like there's always a time we can win unless we get one shot. It just there's just no downside to it. I know on paper it seems like they're squishy targets, but we're not. We're very tanky. We can get away and we can set up way faster than any other comp. We have way faster setups than any other comp. So that's why I have RPS up here as S tier. The last comp I have up on here is probably the strongest comp on the list. I know you would have thought I meant that by when I say an RPS, but you bring in a warrior and everything's better. Warrior, priest, shaman. So the way this comp is played is just sheer pressure. You don't do anything. You just sheer pressure go. Like that's all you do. You warrior sits on a target. You play to live, and eventually you win off the warrior's damage. That's literally how the comp is played. You run at a target. You tell the warrior, "Hey, you got a stormbolt. I got a stormbolt. Zug zug." And then he stormbolts a target, you stun, he hexes, and you just one shot somebody, or you don't, and they use cooldowns, and you just wait another 30 seconds, 45 seconds, and you do it again, and eventually they just get ran over by the warrior's sheer pressure. It's absolutely absurd. I played this comp this season to about 2100 so far, and I felt like I didn't know what I was doing. I felt like we just ran out of target and they end up dying. That's honestly how I felt. I felt like we were just running out of targets and they died. They couldn't kill my warrior. They couldn't kill me. They have intervene. They have ignore pain. They get like 11k shields right fucking now. They have they can still run the legendary where they can intervene the target and then they can spell reflect and give them the spell reflection to the nearest target. They have disarm. They have war banner. They have blade storm for cleave. They just have super strikes. They have so much. Like I can go on, but it's like RPS, but with the pressure, but without the setup. You just run and kill a target. Everyone's pretty much unkillable in this comp because you have so much from the warrior for protection, and the shaman has cooldowns to rotate through, and then yours. It just feels like the enemy teams don't have enough cooldowns to kill you. It's the only thing that you can pretty much die to here is Windwalker cleave comps because they can out cleave you, and with the bug to the Windwalkers, and how strong their spinning king cricks and their pets are. That's really the only thing that I feel like you can die to here. I haven't had much issue other than that. Some mage log comps feel a little bit hard, but even then, it's not really. We eventually just out attrition them. They got ran out of cooldowns, and we just no cooldown pressure kill them. This comp, if you guys really want to push really high ratings, really easy, this is one of those comps. You find a good warrior, you find a good shaman, and you're gonna skyrocket. I promise you. Like I am telling you, this is a great comp. And all three of these comps, if you guys really want to push rating, this is what I recommend playing, and play with the rest of Shaman. The rest of Shamans are really good right now. And this right here is the tier breakdown. Now the other healers I have down here again, you can just, they all fill into the comps that I put up here. But this is generally what my assessment of the comps are. You have the warrior priest shaman, you have the rogue priest shaman, you have the mage priest, pally and druid, you have the FPS, you have the Ellie Shaman Druid, you have the Ellie Shaman. You can play with the Holy Pally if you want to too. You can play double Shaman. Like you can play any of these healers with any of these comps essentially. Shaman just feels the strongest, and Druid feels the strongest for certain comps right now. Like those are just too good. Demon Hunter, like any of these guys, any of the A and S tier, I promise you guys are gonna get some good rating out of. B tier, probably not as much success, but you can still get a lot of success because these, if you notice, are based off one shots or can just attrition based, especially with the Windwalker and Ret Pally. And then please just again play at your own risk with the Warlocks, guys. But that is my breakdown when it comes to compositions, the comps I played this season, and the comps I fought this season. Is a lot of reason why a lot of this came to where it came to is the comps I fought and how easy or how bad it felt. Um, but yeah, I mean, again, if you guys don't agree with it, I apologize, but this is just how I feel. It's my opinion of the tier list. And if you guys found success in these comps, or you guys agree with these, just leave a comment. Let me know. Um, that's pretty much all I think I got at the moment for you guys on this guide. If you have any questions, you guys can follow me, leave a comment. You can go to my Twitch and find me live at twitch.tv/aphobiagaming. Um, yeah, I hope you guys found some kind of use out of this, and I hope to see you guys in the next video.